Welcome to Leaders and Learners. My name is Tanya McKenzie, and you can find me at the intersection of public relations and leadership. Join us as we talk to organizational leaders, elected officials, experts, authors, artists, and personalities, sharing their stories, talking about how they got to where they are and how they continue to learn and lead the way. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, greetings, good people. Welcome back to another edition of Leaders and Learners. Today, we get to chat with some of our neighbors and go over the GPAC. So to help us understand what the GPAC is, we have Mr. Paul Moses. We have another esteemed member, Matt Kilroy here, and our awesome neighbor, Miriam Butler. Awesome. So let's get right into last night. And Paul, take the mic and explain to the people what GPAC is and why it is important to them.
So for the past 8 years, we've had an advisory committee called the GPAC, a General Plan Advisory Committee. It was made up of 27 members of Redondo residents. Each council person got to pick 5 people. The mayor got to pick 2 people. So we had 27 members originally. Our task was to update the city's general plan. The city's general plan is a map for the city and all the zoning within it. So every single lot, every single portion of the city has zoning, and we were tasked to update those to see what was working. The last time it was done was 25 years ago. So it was time to take a new look at the zoning, and that was what we were asked to do. It was a very long and arduous process. We got to a point where they said it was done. Basically, we ran out of money because it was only supposed to last 1 year and $1 million. It ended up costing about $2 million, and it took 8 years. So here we are. We've got a new general plan. It's got some good things in it and a lot of bad things in it, and we're going to get into those during this broadcast.
Awesome. Now, Matt, explain what your position has been in the city so people know your background and what you were doing when we started GPAC and what you're doing now.
Well, I've served on various commissions in the city for the last 30 plus years and was a former council member in District 5 for 8 years. What am I doing now? Serving on the Charter Advisory Committee in addition to serving on the General Plan Advisory Committee, and still involved in the community through AYSO on their board, and still work with a lot of people who are interested in making Redondo Beach a better place to live.
Now, you said the charter, what does that do?
So the Charter Advisory Committee, over the years, the charter's been modified a number of times. Everything from making the language more inclusive to updating the roles of various officials as described in the charter. And that's kind of what we're going through now. We had stuff on the previous ballot that was more academic or ministerial. What we're doing now is we're struggling with what we think the role of the city attorney should be elected, should be appointed. Same thing with the city clerk, the city treasurer, making sure that the descriptions in the charter match what we expect our city clerk and city treasurer to do. So it's really getting down into the weeds and looking through the document. And again, like the general plan, what do we want Redondo Beach to be for the next 30 years? What is going to best serve our community?
Is that where I hear that term moral turpitude from? Is that something that's in our charter?
Yes, that is in the charter.
What is that about? Because I keep hearing that term.
Yeah, and I've had a little bit of an education on it. So in our city charter, there is a section with how elected officials would be removed from office for various misdeeds, and it uses the term crimes of moral turpitude. So moral turpitude is broadly defined as offenses against the community standard, things that go against the broad community expectations. We had one situation in the last 50 years that I know of where an elected official actually wasn't removed for a crime of moral turpitude, although they should have. They ended up only having 2 months left in office. And so the judge actually ruled, or the state attorney actually ruled, it's going to take too long to go through this process. Just let him term out of office. And that was city clerk John Oliver for defrauding DMV of registration fees.
Does a crime have to be, does it have to be a criminal offense to be moral turpitude?
I asked that question, and the way our charter is written, it says crimes of moral turpitude. So the clear implication is that it does have to be a criminal offense.
I got a good question here. So is there a case of moral turpitude that's not a crime? And is keeping $500,000 that's not yours considered a crime in this city?
So that was one of the things I also kind of talked about. Why wasn't that pursued as a criminal offense? And I guess it could still be. Ultimately, it wasn't, I guess, I'm going to presume that it wasn't referred to a district attorney for prosecution, that the harmed party didn't file a criminal complaint with whatever local police department, and that it was pursued solely as a civil matter. So could you include it? I'm sure the charter could be, the language could be changed. If you changed it to include, so what was discussed with me was if it was changed to just a violation of moral turpitude, it becomes a violation of community standards. I guess it opens up the box, so to speak, of, and I wouldn't be against this. I'm thinking about this. Let's say Kevin De Leon in the LA City Council is a great example. Some of the things that came out of his mouth, I think, clearly violate what we would expect our community, our leaders to be representing, and offensive to many people. And there are those who would argue that it would be a violation of moral turpitude, the community standards, and that he should be removed from office. He hasn't been. He's refused to step down, and there he sits. And I guess the question is, do you want that to be available? Because who determines whether it's who removes him is the city council. It's the other members of the city council. So yes. Do you then want the other members of the city council having that power to remove somebody for what they view as a violation of community standards?
Well, and this, we can do a whole show on the charter and this very subject. The current city council can remove commission members if they talk about something that the council doesn't like. The mayor removed 2 sitting planning commissioners because they just mentioned that they wanted to talk about housing on the AES site, and they got kicked off the commission. So now we've got a city councilman who had this, he's been prohibited from practicing law for 2 years and a lot of fines. And so I don't know why this doesn't constitute a crime as far as the charter goes. If it wasn't tried in criminal court, all right. But it was tried by the state bar. It seems like a pretty serious accusation. And just for people to know, this came up, years and years ago. The reason this came up was John Oliver, who was our city clerk. He faked a DMV registration on a car he was taking to Mexico to donate to charity. Wow. That was the crime of moral turpitude back then. So this seems like it's on a whole different level. And we never really received any legal clarity from the city attorney or the city council. They never mentioned this. It all just kind of went right by the wayside. Believe me, if we had our previous city attorney, Mr. Goddard, we'd be looking for a new council member in District 4 right now.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's what Jerry Goddard did previously. The city council refused to remove John Oliver. So Jerry Goddard went to the state attorney, and I don't know the proper legal terminology. It's something like quo warranto, but it's basically asking the state attorney to give him the authority to pursue it in court. And the state attorney, I read the decision by the state attorney, it clearly agreed that it was a crime of moral turpitude, defrauding the DMV of duly whatever warranted registration fees. But we're not going to give you permission because he's only got 2 months left in office, was basically the decision.
Wow.
But it did result in a charter change. We ended up with that
changes. That's absolutely what we're talking about. Is how do citizens get changes that they want to see happen in the city? Let me ask really quick, Miriam, do you know anything about GPAC just as a resident? What do you know about it? And the amount of money that was spent on it. Paul, remind her how much was spent on it. Did you know that? And, do you think that it was an appropriate, I guess, spend for the city?
Is it just shy of $2 million? $2
million. Oh, I love the look on your face. That was great.
I did not realize that we've spent $2 million of our city's money, which we pay into as residents with our taxes, towards this committee. I kind of generally had an idea about it because I know that the GPAC has, worked to create some general plan, which, again, I have very limited knowledge on it, but I do know that they, and forgive me and please correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but was it the GPAC that determined the number of housing units per district, or is that something else?
Well, all three of us should address this, but we were tasked to do a housing element, and we did a housing element that had a much more equitable, or as equitable spread of new housing units throughout the city in north and south. There were certain reasons because of space that was available at the time that a few more went in North Redondo. That was put forward to the Planning Commission, and they actually revamped it quite a bit and took a lot of the housing out of South Redondo and put more in North Redondo. By the time it got to the city council, they started taking more and more and almost all of it out of South Redondo and putting in North Redondo. But there's the key. They submitted their housing element to the state HCD, which is Housing and Community Development, and they rejected it. It came back to the city. The city said, okay, we'll try again. And they tried it again, and they failed the second time.
It's important to note why they rejected it.
Well, they were, they didn't even have enough housing, or the housing was not actually viable. And this is the
part
thing.
of it is it wasn't balanced.
Yeah, and I think the final version was just shove as much housing as possible anywhere, so HCD actually can't deny it, because it was so lopsided. And it just said, look, we're building 1 million units up there in North Redondo by the transit center. We're doing what you asked. You can't deny this. So they finally got it approved, and that was the thing. We didn't have a housing element for those first two tries. That's the legal argument that we're seeing right now that we're being challenged on. So I don't see the legal ground to say, like, well, we had a certified housing element because the city council said it was certified. It's not certified until the state did. The state twice said, you don't have a certified housing element. And that's where developers got us, because they just dragged their heels. They did everything to fight housing. You just got a zone for it. It's the law, and there's punishment for breaking the law. So that's where we ended up with this crazy lopsided housing element that is part of the general plan. It's not what came from the GPAC. It is nowhere near what came from the GPAC. It is a product of the city council and the city council alone, and mainly the District 4 councilman who said, put it all in my district. We'll just get it done. And now there's serious ramifications to that, because it's going to go to a vote of the people. And a lot of people live in North Redondo, and they don't want all the housing up there. So we're going to see what's going to happen in this coming special election that we've got to have for the general plan update, which includes the housing element. If voters reject the general plan and they reject 4,000 units in North Redondo, then it all goes back to the drawing board, and there's big ramifications if that happens.
And let me be clear, there was a moment in a GPAC meeting, I'll never forget it. It might be the first time I just had to take a deep breath when we were talking about the housing. And, with the housing comes a certain percentage of low income housing, which is another reason South Redondo representatives really only want this housing cluster to go in North Redondo. And it was like, oh, we don't want those people here. And I was like, those people? I don't think people recognize that low housing takes care of our teachers. Low housing takes care of our amazing civil servants like our firefighters and our police officers. It takes care of your mother who can't afford to go buy another house, or after she's retired and on a fixed income, just go live her best life. So in their minds, because low income represents, I guess, Section 8 and low income and low class people, it's best if we just keep it all in North Redondo. And like Paul has said, at some point, the voters will have an opportunity to weigh in on that. I actually hope that South Redondo leans in on this to let them know, actually, this isn't okay. It would make a lot of sense for them to want to see equity in the city so that they still have to leave town. So leaving out of North Redondo, if it's just jam-packed, crowded, and ridiculous, that doesn't benefit anyone. If you're looking for housing for your dad or your mom, or why couldn't some of it be in
or
South
our
Redondo?
teachers, or our
Or our
teachers.
teachers, absolutely.
We're having
One-
issues.
one of the-
Hold on, we're
One of
having
the
issues.
reasons that the city council justified putting all the housing in North Redondo was they didn't want people driving all through Redondo to go to work. They just wanted to kill that commute and not even create a situation where people had to drive out of the city to go to work. Well, everybody drives to work. I don't care what city you live in. Most people drive to work. The number 90% of every city in Southern California, people leave to go to work. It's just the way it is. They trump up this number like, oh, we have a 92% out commute in the morning. So does PV. So does everybody. I mean, it's just the way it is. You don't build businesses in the middle of residential areas. So now we've got this situation where they want to put all the housing up there, but all the schools in North Redondo are the ones that are completely overstuffed, and they are sending kids right now to Toledo School and Alta Vista. So the people that are going to be living in North Redondo have to drive to South Redondo to take their kids to school. Exactly what they didn't want is what they're getting because of their actions.
Well, you
Miriam?
bring up a good point, Paul. They've never even followed their own statistics and numbers. That 92 number is so misleading. First of all, a great majority of people don't have to go to work at all. Or me, I'm retired. I don't go to work. Why can't we have housing for people that aren't on the 9 to 5, so to speak? A number of people who do leave the city of Redondo Beach to go to work actually go up Sepulveda. They work at the Aerospace Corporation. They work at LAX. They work at Chevron. There's a lot of employment centers that don't require you to actually go to the freeway. More and more after COVID, more and more people are working from home. It doesn't address that. One of the statistics that they brought up last night was the increase in percentage of residents over the age of 55. There's no reason why housing can't be provided in all areas of the city for people who are nearing retirement age and who will not be traveling. So they put out that 92% as if it represented the whole pie, but it doesn't represent the whole pie. It represents only a portion of the pie, only a portion of the people driving. I drop my granddaughter off at school in the morning and I go south on Inglewood Avenue. Traffic is backed up heading south away from the freeway because of all the other reasons people get in their cars in the morning to go places. And a lot of it, everybody knows that traffic is less in the summertime because school is out. School has a major impact on congestion on the roads in the morning. And they totally ignore that aspect of travel. What's also ironic is not the right word. It's really almost a tragedy. The busiest section of the roadway in Redondo Beach is Inglewood Avenue between Manhattan Beach Boulevard and Marine. It has more traffic than PCH. It has more traffic than Aviation. It has more traffic than any other section of roadway in Redondo Beach. And they go and they want to jam, what is it, close to 2,000 additional units right
Yeah.
at the busiest roadway in Redondo Beach. And there are no schools there. There's no schools anywhere near there. There's, yeah, you're right. It's just going to just create. Then the next argument is, well, you know, it probably will never be built. They said that 30 years ago when they put 2,500 mixed housing units on the South Bay Galleria. Then 25 years later, we have a project that suggests that just wants to do what, 1,000, 1,100 units, and people had a heart attack. In short, this plan is meant to be here for 30 years, 25, 30 years going forward. If the zoning's there, it may not happen tomorrow, next year, but it'll happen. And it's just a horrible place for them to pack all the housing.
Miriam? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So make a long story short, it sounds like we need to vote no, because the residents that comprise the GPAC, correct me if I'm wrong, created something, took it to council. The council basically voted no because, you know, our mayor is in South Redondo. Then he's got 2 council people in South Redondo, and then our District 4 council person just votes with them to go along with them because, you know, he's their shill or whatever, allegedly. And so as a result, it's harming us in North Redondo. I also wanted to say that, so we should vote no, because another thing to consider, there's a big problem right now in RBUSD. We're having an influx of TK and kinder kids because they're expanding the age for the TK, the transitional kindergarten age. So we're actually just got a letter maybe 2 days ago from the director of the Child Development Center at for RBUSD, you know, so it's impacting everyone, that they're canceling the Child Development Center program for the 4th and 5th graders starting this August. So every, you know, up until right now, they have 4th and 5th graders in the Child Development Center. Well, they're going to cancel it to make space for incoming children. And we know why. You know, incoming kids, if they have after school care, then most likely they'll stay in Redondo. They don't want to lose those kids to homeschooling or private school or whatever else. So, right, we want to try to make room for them. So all this to say that RBSD doesn't have the resources to continue the after school care for our kids. And, you know, I want to make a point that this is hurting the North Redondo residents the most. Because the majority of the families who are here have dual income, right? We're in North Redondo, so we have majority of the parents, both parents are working. And I also want to say that the majority of families and children are in North Redondo. So this packing in even more housing over here, creating more congestion, it affects our schools. This is our infrastructure. It's not just traffic. There's also infrastructure things, water, sewage, schools, grocery stores, gas stations. So it really behooves us to vote no, because we already are highly impacted. I want to say District 4 in North Redondo is the most dense district already, and that's where they want to put even more housing. And so when we talk about Redondo Beach wanting so much more parkland and green spaces, we need to make sure that we have parkland, the little green space that we have here is preserved. We want to make sure that all of Redondo is beautiful and not just the select few parts of the city.
Hey, before we get back to GPAC, Miriam, you had some updates for us, right?
Yes. So a couple things. A few podcasts ago, we talked about the situation with the parking by the high school. And I had mentioned that there's a parking issue one day of the week where there's street sweeping. And so essentially the city council came up with a solution to say, hey, maybe we'll have the street sweeping by the high school from 7 to 8 a.m., I think on Tuesday or something like that. So that way the kids can park. And it was met with a few people in the community arguing about it, saying, no, I need to park on, I can't get up that early to move my car. Just kind of not really being very neighborly. But the update is that the Todd Lowenstein of District 2 came up with, he pressed staff to find another day to do the street sweeping, just to see if we could have like a collab. This was very good. It was collaborative. So now it's going to be 8 to 9 a.m. on Mondays, because the kids have late start on Monday. So from 8 to 9 a.m. will be street sweeping, and then after 9 the kids can park there, and that'll give them sufficient time to park it and get to class on time. And all of so Nils Narenheim of District 1 voted no, and the other council members voted yes. So thank you for that. I think that's going to be great for our kids, and I'm glad that it was a little bit of a win-win. It just shows that when we do an interest-based approach to problem solving, things can work, and I wish we did more of that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was the art. That was our last podcast. We talked about how concerned we are here in North Redondo that our artwork that was commissioned for District 4 to be put at the transit center is basically going to be in Hermosa Beach. I mean, it's right there on the border of Hermosa and Redondo. It's like ridiculous that essentially our art is going down away from us. But what we found out that there's a John Parsons Art Fund. Artesia is going to get $1 million. Thank you to Paige Kaluderovich of District 3 for prioritizing Artesia. She essentially said, the art funding that's going to go for District 3, let's put it towards 4 for now, and then we can focus on 3 in the future. But we recognize that Artesia Boulevard really needs revitalization. So I really appreciate that. That is forward thinking, and that's really thinking about, our community as a whole. So thank you. And I asked her for the budget sheet for art, but I haven't gotten that yet. So it will be interesting to know. But basically, we're going to be getting some art here, and I think Paul might know more about that. And then that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much. Oh, right. One more thing. Mm-hmm. Keep the Esplanade Beautiful is doing a Saturday sweep. The first Saturday of each month, we meet at 9 a.m. at Saks on the Beach, which is on the corner. It's a little cafe. It's on the corner of Avenue I and Catalina. We meet at 9 a.m. We supply all the supplies, the trash pickers, the bags and gloves, and we sweep and clean the beautiful Esplanade so we can all enjoy. And that's 9 a.m. So if anyone wants to join us first Saturday of every month, we're going to be there, and we'd love to see you.
Awesome. Now, Paul, I'm going to let you take it from here because I want you to explain what I'm going to show them, a clip of Tom Backley from Beach Cities Health District. There's a piece of the GPAC that we're all a little befuddled about because we had nothing to do with it, yet our names are on this document that is being presented as a collaborative effort. Yeah. So I'm going to let either, Paul or Matt go ahead and break it down. What is going on with Beach Cities Health District and GPAC?
Paul, it's all yours.
Okay, so Beach Cities Health District, the parcel that's where Beach Cities Health District is on a community institution lot. That's what it's zoned for. And that means like City Hall is on the same type of lot with that type of zoning. We did not discuss Beach Cities Health District in the GPAC over this 8 years. We didn't discuss the zoning there. We didn't change the zoning there. In the final draft that has been put forward to the Planning Commission of the work that is got our name on it, has this development cap now on the Beach Cities Health District zone, and only their zone. So they're still considered institution, but they have this very, very low, what's called a floor area ratio. It's a 0.75 put on their lot, and no one knows, or no one's fessing up to where that number came from. The city, Beach Cities is not asking for much. They just want continuity. They said if the City Hall is zoned for 1.25, we want 1.25. But at 0.75, it basically makes any improvement or further development of that property impossible. That is going to get the city sued. That is called spot zoning. It is illegal, and it will get our city sued by Beach Cities Health District. It's a shame because this is a great facility. I get all my health care there. and they can't even do retrofits on the building. It's just ridiculous that this got in. The worst part about this is all evidence points to the District 1 councilman. He brought it up at a council meeting. It's on videotape. He's the only person that spoke of it. And suddenly it's in this document. And they wanted to give it some sort of credibility. Oh, this came from the community and the GPAC. It did not. We did not create a document that gets the city sued. That is not our job. And so we said last night that needs to be changed. We didn't have the power to change it at this point. It's going to be either city staff or maybe the planning commission or maybe the council. But if it stays as is at 0.75 at Beach City's health district, it will get the city sued. A little to expand on that. There's county board of, this is a regional facility that helps people all over. County board of supervisors, federal government, everybody wants to see Beach cities thrive. They want to see it expand. They want to see them implement the plans they have. So I think that the few people that thought this was a good idea at the city are really going to pay for it, because this is just corruption. It's just malfeasance, and we caught them.
Not to mention that we've already been embroiled in plenty of lawsuits that keep anything from getting done. But let me go ahead and play this for you guys. So this is Tom Backley, Beach City's Health District, speaking about this unanswered for piece that was put into the GPAC document.
Segment. Yeah, one more.
Good evening. My name's Tom Backley. I'm the CEO of the Beach Cities Health District. I think I was before this group about 5 or 6 years ago. I came and we talked about some of the work that we had done on the general plan up in Hermosa Beach when I was city manager there. So I just wanted to come thank you for your work over the last 7 years and 20 some odd meetings. So thank you for your work. You just heard some of the legal concerns that we have with the draft general plan. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the planning and policy concerns and just put those before you tonight. This is a property that's been around for 65 years. It's a property that currently has a conditional use permit on it by downzoning a public property. That's essentially what you're doing or the city would be doing if this was approved. It would be downzoning public land. We don't think that's wise. We don't know what the future holds. We've been able to be flexible and adapt and provide healthcare services for many years. We were able to do that during the pandemic. So permanently downzoning and addressing and reducing the density on a property that's been around for a long time, that also has a certified and unchallenged EIR for a plan. That's something that's been in place for a couple of years. We have a certified EIR. It was not challenged. And then to sort of put this in after the fact, I think is contrary to that. Again, I think if there are concerns about aspects of the plan, those would be better addressed with the tools that you have before you in Redondo with a conditional use permit, as opposed to a zoning change that doesn't uniformly address properties that have the same designation. So what we're asking for is that the general plan be consistent and continuous. You've seen or heard some of the legal concerns we have. I think it's just good policy. We've been a partner for a long time with the city. We continue to be partners. We have the same zoning, and that's something that we hope will continue in the future. If it does not, then the district will have a hard time providing the services and the public services that it does. And so that's an impact when you change the zoning of a public land use as opposed to a private land use. You have a direct impact on the provision of public services. I don't know that you've ever done that before. Maybe you've done that with the schools, I don't know. But that is a significant change, and one that we hope you will consider long and hard before making that change. And again, we hope for some sort of continuity. 1.25 is something that may be consistent with some of your other public designations, and something that we would like you to consider. If this stays in the general plan, this is something that we will need to continue to challenge and have concerns about into the future as it impacts our future and the ability to provide health services to the Redondo residents. Thank you.
To add to what Paul was saying, because I was talking with the chair of the GPAC last night after the meeting, asking specifically about this. He mentioned that, and I hope I get this right, that the state had changed the rules with regards to community zoning, couldn't have a, let's call it non-existent or infinite floor to area ratio. There had to be a number associated with it, if I remember what he told me correctly. And that's where the whole thing kind of started. But yes, why is Beach Cities Health District property the only property with that zoning designation at a much lower FAR development amount than any other similarly zoned property in Redondo Beach? It is spot zoning, and you're right, Paul. It will get us sued. We will lose, and we could pay significant amount in damages for that. And Niels's name was thrown out there as the person who brought it up with regards to making that property 0.75. So
Wow.
And Matt had alluded to this last night at our last meeting of the GPAC, that the worst aspects of the general plan were the ones that got politicized, were the ones that got taken away from the community and suddenly were shoved down our throats, like the housing element, which came directly from the city council, and this aspect of spot zoning that came directly from the city council. It's a shame because they tried to give the GPAC, oh, it's got this veneer that it came from the community. But these things they snuck into it are just terrifying to see. It's just, you wonder who they're serving, because they're definitely not serving the community.
They're divisive. And to add, I'd like to add just one more thing with regards to that. We do need to work together. I'm on the Harbor Commission. We need North Redondo to be a partner in the revitalization of the harbor area. We need the harbor area revitalized and supported by all of Redondo Beach. And this whole GPAC, the whole housing element is just divisive, splitting Redondo Beach, and it's going to hurt all of Redondo Beach. It's not just going to hurt North Redondo Beach. It's going to hurt all of Redondo Beach because of what they have done, politicizing what should be a housing plan that meets the needs and benefits all of Redondo Beach. So,
wow. So any last words about the GPAC before we get out of here? We try to keep you guys to about 30 minutes. I know this is a little longer, but helping you understand what this is, why it's important, and kind of how we feel about it since our names are on it. Thought that might be important too. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We can answer those live. But how do you feel about it now moving forward? And they said last night, that took us 8 years. And this is still only the beginning. So there is still a lot more that needs to happen, and the community is going to be a big part of that. So you need to know what you're going to be voting for the special election. Paul?
Well, yes, the community will get more say in this process. There are some workshops, and they can come and say, we want these changes and we don't agree with it. I don't know how much they can actually change the housing element at this point because it's certified. We can't just go screwing with it after the state said, yeah, this is your housing element. So we could make sure that the council knows this is what you're going to get if this goes to a ballot. We don't like it, and we're going to vote against it. And it's back to the drawing board. There are some other implications if the housing element is not passed. Oh, and by the way, we wouldn't have to do this unless for a specific law that is unique to Redondo, where any kind of zoning change has to be voted on by the entire community. They would not have this problem but for a law that they created. They created this law to prevent people from upzoning lots without a vote of the people. Well, they went and upzoned a bunch of lots in North Redondo to cram a bunch of housing up there, and they didn't ask the community. And the state's saying, well, you got to ask the community before, and you have to have the land use there approved by voters before we approve and accept this housing element, and it goes into your general plan. So the roadblocks they created are the ones that are inhibiting them the most. They just become a huge problem. This election it's going to cost us a lot, and win or lose, it's going to cost the community a lot. And just as Matt said, it's going to be probably the most divisive election we've ever seen. And it's going to be a special election, most likely in February 2025. It'll be a mail-in election. And if you feel strongly about this, take the time to fill out the ballot and put it in the mail. That's all you got to do. Vote, and vote by mail. And you can change the future of Redondo. It's an amazing amount of power that the community has now, because this is going to have very, very big implications for the future.
Matt?
Yeah, and to add to that, with regards to the housing element being changed, so yes, the housing element can be changed. What is being presented to the voters doesn't have to be accepted by the voters. They don't have to sit there and sit there and go, well, there's no other choice. Yes, there is another choice. If you vote no, it becomes a non-compliant housing element, and it has to be, the staff will have to go back and revise it to make it appropriate for the citizens of Redondo Beach. So yes, the citizens now have a great deal of power and voice, and they need to exercise that voice and send a clear message that housing needs need to be met for all of Redondo Beach. And it needs to be address everyone in Redondo Beach. That includes people who are retired, as well as various income levels. And so, yeah, you've got the power. You got the power to make a change, to make it right.
And Matt, I meant that the city can't change the housing element before it goes to voters at this point. So what we've got right now is what's going to voters before February. If it doesn't go to voters, then we got bigger problems. So expect a special election coming in. And the three of us might recall the original GPAC came up with a housing element that was spread throughout the city. It spread the impacts of housing throughout the city. Yep. So you didn't cram it all in one thing and create traffic nightmares and school impacts that were just unmanageable. But that got shot down. So South Redondo didn't like it, and they made sure it didn't happen. And I remember that meeting quite clearly. We had a great meeting, a lot of cooperation, came up with a housing plan that really did, share the responsibility, and it just got blown out of the water in the next meeting. Unbelievably, they were able to, well, let's talk about this again, and they just sabotaged it. So now we're at where we're at. Planning and council has said we're going to do it even worse. We're going to put all the pain in North Redondo, and that's what they've done, and that's what's going to go to voters. So don't expect any change after that. Yeah, it's back to the drawing board.
After that,
we can maybe make it more equitable, but there's a lot of things that actually have to happen before that happens. So it may be a year before we actually see another housing element that is viable. So we'll see.
Yeah,
it's gonna be exciting.
And for me, I'm going to say the same thing I said last night, which is that I'm incredibly disappointed with how close-minded some of the individuals have been. We started this project, and I agreed to do this because we were talking about the future of Redondo. And for me, that includes the young people. And there were so many opportunities to infuse this city with opportunities for our young people, but that didn't happen. And now we are fighting the Beach Cities Health District fight. We don't want to lose them. This is not just a Redondo entity. Beach Cities Health District is a regional entity. As your commissioner for alcohol and other drugs, we work closely with them when it comes to drug and alcohol issues for our young people. So something like this poses a detriment to services that are greatly needed. And don't get it twisted. This community has a very high rate of alcohol and drug use and abuse by our young people. So let's get that straight. But my disappointment again is people in the room that only wanted to see what they wanted to see. I want this and I want that and I don't want this and I don't want that in my community. Not thinking about the future of Redondo. So that part of it was incredibly disappointing. But the best part for me, obviously, was getting to meet, getting to know, getting to really work with some amazing voices, some amazing minds, some collaboration from a diverse group of thinkers in our community, and just to know that we are surrounded by people that care. You can be from South Redondo and care about what happens in the North. It ain't everybody, but there are a lot. And let's hope that those people still come out and vote with equitable minds, with a level of humanity when it is time to vote. So I do thank all of you guys for being here today and leaning in on this. We'll continue to have these conversations because there will continue to be developments in what's going on in Redondo Beach and Beach Cities. So Miriam, anything before we get out of here? Uh-oh, you're on mute. Say that again.
Hopefully we'll see you guys on Saturday at the Keep the Esplanade Beautiful Saturday Sweep, 9 a.m., corner of Catalina and Avenue I. Make sure you guys vote no on whatever this thing is that we're going to vote no on.
She's like, let's get ready. But honestly, it's hard. That part is hard, thinking about something being presented to the community with our names on it that we had nothing to do with. Like it's very cringy, actually.
Very.
Well, and what I'd like to say about the GPAC is we were originally tasked to create a 25-year plan that would serve people living here 25 years from now. There are aspects about the general plan that's being put forward that serve people living here now, and it only serves them for the next 10 years. And it's just, that's a real shame. That's a real missed opportunity and a very narrow-minded vision for the future.
Yeah, so we will continue this. Yes.
Thank you very much for hosting this, and keep up the great work.
We have some other amazing guests coming on soon. We'll be talking about walkability. We'll be talking a little bit more about planning and the GPAC. We will continue to have these conversations that are integral for the residents of this community to know what's going on, what they're going to be voting for, and how to make the changes that they want to make in Redondo Beach. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.